Hi, everyone. Thanks for staying around. I know it's late in the day, but I will try to make this as interesting and sensory as possible. This is the first talk I've ever given on my sensory innovation stuff where I'm not involving you in a sensory experience. I'm sorry about that. Usually you would have something to smell or touch or whatever. So just touch each other. I don't know. Okay. So we're going to talk about how we can stay human in the age of AI. So this is the future that awaits us. This is something that Peter Diamandis said recently. And basically, very soon, all our data is going to be able to be measured and collected, measured, analyzed. And basically, our lives are going to be way more efficient. We're going to make the world a better place. It's all going to be great. It's really exciting. Really, I'm not being sarcastic. It's really exciting. However, my friends, this is the reality we're in today. So although from a technology standpoint, we are more connected than ever before, from a human perspective, we are the most disconnected we've ever been. How do you feel about that? You agree? So I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes or so trying to tell you why I think that is and what maybe we can do about it to feel a bit more connected. So one of the reasons that we are feeling disconnected, I think we all would agree, we are facing information overload. Information is coming at us from every channel, everywhere we look, every minute of the day, and it's just like bombarding us. We are just completely overloaded, and it's hard for us to cut through the noise and really focus. Social anxiety, so especially with the younger millennials, the number of likes you get on your social media is almost more important than having real relationships and real people liking you. And so that's causing us to feel really stressed about actual IRL relationships, right? How do we converse now? We're much more comfortable behind our phones, right? So this is a big anxiety that's helping us become more disconnected. So research shows that a quarter of British adults spend more than 10 hours a day behind a screen, and that most adults are checking their phones every 12 minutes. And millennials are actually looking at their phones at least 100 times a day. It's going up and up and up. So we're basically going from screen to screen to screen. We're waking up in the morning, first thing we do, as Laura told us earlier, is most of us look at our phones. And before we go to bed, the last thing we do is look at our phone or our Kindle or our iPad or whatever. So we're spending so much time in front of screens, it's a complete addiction. And this is another thing that's kind of disconnecting us. So don't get me wrong. Technology and all the advances in technology is making our lives so much better. It's so much more convenient, right? Really convenient. Like, for example, we don't even need to go to the supermarket anymore. We don't have to go talk to people and wait in queues because we can just call Ocado, deliver right to our door, much easier. And then, but you know what? Why do we even bother with that? We don't need ingredients to cook our meals because we can just order a ready-made meal right to our door. Save time, much better. But actually, we don't even need to find our phone anymore to make those orders because we have our personal assistant that we can ask to do anything for us, from ordering our food to turning on the lights, turning on the heat, and even turning on our televisions, where, thank goodness, the decision of what to watch has already been outsourced for us. We're told what to watch, what our friends are watching, what we would like, so great, one less thing to think about, right? So one less decision to navigate. And speaking of navigation, soon we won't even have to learn how to navigate because our cars will drive for us. Whew, one less stress. We don't have stress on the motorway. And even if we do have some stress left, it's okay because our wearable devices will tell us we're stressed and how much we need to breathe, when we need to get up and walk, how our heart rate's doing. It's all out there for us. We don't have to worry about anything. So it's all good. Really exciting how convenient our lives are becoming. But at what cost? Now, I'm not even going to go into all the data privacy issues. That's Suki's thing. But that's a whole other thing. But is this what we want to end up like? Because if we're not careful, we're going to end up with the most convenient lives ever, but we're not going to move. We're not going to think. We're not going to have any reason to use our senses, to engage in our bodies, to interact with people. It's very, very convenient, but I'm not sure that's the life we're going for. So we need to remember that in the end of the day, we are not just data points, mixing with other data points and becoming more efficient machines. We're actually human. We're messy. We feel, we think, we communicate. We are human beings, and we can't forget that. So I want to talk a little bit about where we're headed. So with the future of work, we all know that AI and robotics are going to be a big part of our lives and take over a lot of the jobs. And as was mentioned before, the World Economic Forum lists some of these skills, these human skills, as the most important skills, especially as leaders. Now, the thing is, how are we going to really practice these skills, trust, empathy, creativity, if we're not even in touch with our own senses, if we're numb, because we're just behind screens, tapping, trying to meet our objectives, and we're not communicating with each other? I think it's pretty hard. So I think it's very connected that we need to be in our bodies, be embodied in order to practice these skills. So not only to become the kind of empathic, creative leaders we need, but also to develop products, to develop technology that can really help humanity. We have to be these things. And also, in addition, to have customer relationships that are authentic and powerful and meaningful, cut through the bullshit. We need to be these kind of leaders and to create company cultures that embody these values. So in the end of the day, we are sensory beings. We are conscious beings. We feel things. We sense things. And we use different parts of the brain to process different things that we experience, right? So our senses are all connected, and if we activate different senses at the same time, so simultaneously stimulate our senses, we get a much better picture of the world because it's activating different sets of connections in our brain. So it's very important that we stimulate all our senses, not just one, in order to accurately obtain information and retain information, to create memories. So let's look at how each of our senses impacts our experience and why that's important. Vision. So vision is our most dominant sense, and it's the most instinctive sense. We base a lot around what we see. And Daniel Kahneman, I'm sure a lot of you have read the book Thinking Fast and Slow, so he refers to this, and it's not his research, but he refers to it as System 1 thinking. So System 1 thinking is automatic, quick, and instinctive. So sight plays a really big part in that because it's very instinctive. System 2 thinking is slow, rational, and effortful, but let's focus on System 1. So research shows that 80 to 85% of perception, learning, cognition, and activities are mediated through vision. This is great, but as we just learned on the other slide, vision isn't everything. It's just one sense, and we can't rely just on that. By relying just on vision, and this probably looks quite familiar to a lot of you, we are negatively impacting our work cultures because people are behind screens, they're not communicating, they're just focusing on what they see, and this is causing, it's detrimental to the company culture, basically. So if we just rely on vision, we're not going to communicate, and this is going to cause more and more miscommunication, frustration, which leads to dissatisfaction in the workplace, which is a big problem. It all spirals. And this is all based on the fact that we're only looking. We're not actually engaging our other senses. By only focusing on vision, there's another big problem. Diversity. So especially visible diversity, right? So if we only focus on vision, we're making a lot of choices that are unconscious. It's unconscious biases, but we're making decisions based on what we see. So how many times have people made the mistake of either a woman and a man show up for a meeting and it's assumed the woman is the secretary or the assistant and the man is the CEO? Or you base your decision based on age, color of skin, gender, physical ability or disability. When we just look through our eyes, we're missing a lot of the picture. Maybe if we focused on things like body language, handshake, tone of voice, we would get a fuller picture. So just important to remember that vision is not everything. Hearing. So Julian Treasure, who's a sound expert, he says that we are losing our listening. We're losing any meaning around sound because we're so bombarded with noise and we're so used to working in a distracting, noisy environment that we've lost the meaning. We just block it out. We've become almost unconscious about sound, and that's not healthy at all. So basically, we are broadcasting. Instead of listening, what we're doing nowadays is just broadcasting our own opinions out there. So we're posting on all the social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, posting our opinions to other people who have the same sort of opinions. We end up in echo chambers. We're not actually listening. We're not actually having conversations. And this is a problem, because if we're not listening to each other, especially in our workplace, how can we listen to our customers? How can we make products and services that are going to speak to the world if we don't even listen to each other internally? And by the way, our internal company teams are our customers. Those are our most important customers. So we first have to learn to listen and have conversations before we can go out and create products and services that really speak to the wider community. This is an interesting piece of information, neuroscientific fact, that we speak at approximately 125 words per minute. We listen or understand at approximately 400 words per minute, and we think at approximately 900 words per minute. So if you do the maths, all of you are only using about 25% of your brain to listen to me right now. 75% of your brain is free to do other stuff, which is why you're probably on your phone or thinking about the drinks later or whatever, because we only need to use 25%. It makes it really hard for us to totally focus and listen to someone. It's not easy. Also, if you think about it, if we're thinking at 900 words per minute, but only speaking at 125 words per minute, that means that I'm only saying about 14% of what's going through my head. So active listening or deep conscious listening is listening not only to the words we say, but also everything around it. We know that 7% of communication is the words. The rest is all body language and tone of voice. So if I stand here and I tell you, I'm really excited to be here today, I really feel so honored, and does it matter what I say? It's obviously everything else. It's the body language, it's the tone of voice. So just remember that. Touch. Now, touch is a touchy subject. It's the most basic form of communication. It's the most social of all the senses. And it's a basic need. It's a biological and developmental need. It doesn't need language. It's immediate. If you think about it, it's the most authentic form of communication we have. Yet, from childhood, we are told many more times not to touch than to touch. If you think about it, you tell a kid, don't touch that, get your hands out of your mouth, it's all about don't touch. By the time we become adults, we have become almost averse to touch, and we become touch deprived. There's a big touch deprivation problem going on right now, especially in Western countries. We are just freaking out about touch. We don't want anyone to touch us. And this is causing a lot of mental health issues. And we need to be aware of this. So touch in the workplace. Now, I know that sounds like a bit of a taboo subject. I don't want anyone touching me at work, and especially with the whole Me Too and all of this. I understand that. But when it is relevant, when it is wanted, when it is appropriate, actually can make a huge, huge difference, right? A pat on the back to show empathy, or high fives to show you're part of a team. It really makes you feel part of something. It makes you feel trust towards the other person. So when done right and tastefully, actually, it's very important to have this in the workplace. And there's lots of research again, that shows that teams who touch and do high fives and are hugging all the time, they feel much more part of a team. They have a sense of purpose. They feel a sense of collaboration. So it's really, really important if we do it the right way, of course. And now, of course, there are startups who are addressing this deprivation need, this lack of touch issue. So I don't know if you've heard of Cuddlist or Cuddle Up to Me. These are American companies, of course. But they're addressing the need to hug and cuddle for a fee. So a stranger comes to your house and hugs or cuddles you for a fee. I'm not joking. This is a problem. So it's being addressed. I mean, that's what startups do. We address problems. There's a Norwegian company called No Isolation that is addressing the isolation problem, social isolation problem. And their founder has coined, I think it was them who coined the term warm tech. So any kind of technology that has to do with meeting an emotional need is called warm tech. So we even have a name for technology that has to do with touch because it's that important. And in terms of technology, there are technologies now being developed to address this issue. So fashion tech company Cute Circuit has developed the hug shirt. This was developed years ago, actually, where if you're far away from your loved one and you want to send them a hug, you both have the shirt, and it's sent through, it's using sensors, and it's sent through a mobile connection. So you hug yourself, and the person on the other side of the world gets that hug. So there's technologies that can help with this. And now the H1 robot that was just recently developed is the first robot that has skin that can really feel and sense their own body and give a human-like hug. So even robots now are starting to feel touch. So that's how important it is. Smell. So smell is directly linked to emotion and memory. A lot of people think it's the least important sense. It's just smell, who cares? But actually, because it is the sense that's most directly connected to the limbic system, it is really important because it's directly connected to our emotions. So if you lose your sense of smell, not only will you not taste your food, because we know that 70 to 90% of taste comes through the olfactory receptors, but you're prone to depression because you don't have that connection anymore to memory and to emotion. So smell is really important. Also, it's something that we need to think about in the workplace, whether we're developing products and we understand how smell works, that's something we can incorporate in. For example, Deutsche Telekom, I believe, has their own scent now. I mean, lots of corporates are developing their own kind of signature scent, even if it has nothing to do with smell, because it creates a connection with the brand. But also internally within our company cultures. For example, if you want to wake everyone up, make them feel energetic, you can spray a peppermint kind of scent. Oh, we should have done that here. Peppermint in the air. Or if you want to improve productivity, you can use lemon. There are lots of ways you can change the mood and the energy levels and the productivity in your offices just by the scent. I know it sounds very, trivial, but it's actually a big deal. Taste. So eating is the most multisensory experience we have. And taste is very much affected by all our other senses. So the color of the dish you eat from, the texture of the material that you drink from, all of these things, the weight of the utensils you use, all impact your taste. So again, things to think about when you're developing products. I don't know if any of you have heard of the Provencal rosé paradox. Do you know about this? So picture you're in Provence, you're in the south of France, you're at the beach with your loved one, it's sunset, gorgeous weather, you're on holiday, so you're just in the best mood, and you're at this beautiful restaurant, and the waiter comes and serves you a rosé. And it is the most delicious, crisp, rich-tasting rosé you've ever had. It is so good, in fact, that you decide to buy a case and take it back to London. You forget about it, and one day, after a very stressful week, you come home, it's pouring rain outside, as always, you've had a 2-hour commute on the tube, you're totally stressed out, and you just need to break open some wine, and you remember in your cellar you have that rosé. So you tell your partner, let's go down and break out that rosé and then have a chilled night in front of Netflix. And you open it up, and it is disgusting. It's acidic, it tastes sour and cheap, and you're like, what was I thinking? This couldn't be the same rosé we just had in Provence on our holiday, but yet it is, because it's not about the taste, it's about everything else. It's about the mood you're in, it's about what you're looking at, what you're listening to, what you're touching. This all impacts the taste. And in fact, in most of my talks, I give everybody a glass of wine. We can do this later, and I play a piece of music. And I ask them to describe the wine to me. And then I serve them a different glass of wine and play a completely different piece of music and ask them to describe the wine. And it's completely different depending on the music. And then I tell them that was the same wine. And they can't believe it. So it is all about the other senses. And speaking of wine, I work with this company called Wine Listening. They're based in Rome, and they are taking this experience, how sound impacts taste, to the general public. And they've created an app that's not unlike Vivino. You know, you take a picture of your wine label on your bottle, and it gives you all the properties of the wine, but in this case, it goes into Spotify and chooses the best song to enhance the flavor of the wine. It's true, and it really works. It really works. And they're doing it the other way around. So if you're listening to music, it will suggest the perfect wine for that music. And it's all based on research. This is not like BS. So I recommend it. You can download that. So a problem with the way we eat today is that, again, we're not connected. We're sitting in front of our desks. We don't have time. Eating is not a priority. Let's just order from Deliveroo and just get it over with. Shove it down our throats. We need to get, this paper done, this work memo done. We're not paying attention. And when you don't pay attention and you're disconnected, you end up eating junk. We all know that. Sit in front of Netflix, whatever. We end up eating junk. We're losing that kind of ritual we used to have to sit around a table, to take a break, the thing that they do in Mediterranean countries still, and which it's proven that they're more healthy because they actually stop work, they sit down, whether it's lunch or dinner, they take a break, they prepare the food with love, they choose it, they smell it, they have conversations around the table. These things matter. It's not only what we eat, but it's how we eat. And also we choose better, we make better choices when we're more aware, when we're connected to ourselves. And this impacts not only our bodies, but the environment as well. And this is crucial right now. In the times we live in, we have to think about these things, which is why I've created this dining experience called the Root to Flower Multisensory Dining Experience, which the UN has now picked up, and I'm working with the UN Climate Change Secretariat on, we're gonna do a few of these dinners in Chile at COP25, which is being prepared for ministers of different countries and heads of delegations from around the world to get them thinking about plant-based eating. And we're doing this through a multisensory dining experience where it's all plant-based, where they're smelling, they're listening to soundscapes, they're touching the earth, the grass, their feet are in the earth. It's a whole multisensory experience because it's proven that if we engage all their senses, they will leave remembering this experience and taking it on. So we've already done a few of these in Germany with the UN, and it's been amazing what they've taken away from it. People who never, ever, ever thought they'd eat a plant-based meat, like we work with Impossible Foods, people from Argentina and Chile who love their red meat, they walked away saying, wow, because I've experienced it now, I think I'm ready to start thinking about changing my behavior. We can talk all we want till we're blue in the face, but until people experience things, they're not gonna change. So that's what one of the projects I'm working on. And another thing I do around food is sensing the future dinners. So this is a dinner I've created, and Nicole's in the picture. She was at my first one. It's a dining experience I've created for leaders, people working in innovation, to talk about the future of work and the skills that I just described before, all those human skills. We practice those skills through a multisensory dining experience. So it's very interactive with the food. Again, sitting around a table and using food as the vehicle is very powerful because it's a sensory experience. So we do this to get people into their bodies and to think about all the skills they need for becoming leaders in a future of AI. So I think it's very exciting what's waiting for us. And I don't think anymore it's going to be human versus machine, but it's human and machine, working hand in hand to create technology that can really change the future for the better. But we just need to do that with sense. We need to innovate with sense, and we need to remember why. Like Nicole said, we have to always ask the question, why? Why are we developing this? And I'll just leave you with this. Being human is given, but keeping our humanity is a choice. Thank you.